Hi, everybody. Welcome to English Digest. I'm Tom.
Hi, I'm Stephanie.
Happy Chuxi, everybody. Happy Chinese New Year's Eve. Hopefully, you've reached your destination for the holidays and are no longer stuck in traffic. Hopefully, the traffic jams weren't too bad this year. And hopefully, the weather will be agreeable too. So now that you're at your destination, and before you have your meal this evening, maybe you'd like to learn a little bit about a girl's noble quest in Where the Mountain Meets the Moon, but not so much the book. We've already talked about that. We'd like to actually talk about the author herself.
Yeah, and some of the themes in the book, some of the messages that our author Grace Lin wanted to communicate. We're going to learn about her background, her life. I love this part. I think day 3 is always kind of my favorite. I love to hear about who wrote the book, kind of their background, their experiences, why maybe they wanted to become an author. Maybe we've got some people out there listening who are also thinking they want to become an author. Nowadays, you can self-publish, so it's easier to get something out there that other people can read. So we're going to wish you all lots of luck if you want to be a future author. Right now, though, I'm going to read through day 3, and then we'll be back to talk about some of these phrases and words. Grace Lin is a Taiwanese-American author and illustrator. Her family was the only Asian family in the neighborhood where she grew up. Lin graduated from the Rhode Island School of Design. She published her first illustrated children's book, The Ugly Vegetables, in 1999. Her husband, Robert, was diagnosed with bone cancer in 2004, and she wrote the book Robert Snow to raise money for cancer research, collecting about $200,000. Sadly, Robert died in 2007. Lin now lives in Massachusetts with her daughter and second husband. She's written over 25 books, including children's picture books and young adult novels, and contributed illustrations to other authors' books. Many of her works are based on Chinese folklore. Her 2009 book, Where the Mountain Meets the Moon, became a Newbery Honor Book. The themes in Where the Mountain Meets the Moon include the value of compassion, generosity of spirit, and the power of gratitude. Out of the kindness of her heart, Minli saves Dragon from the trap. As she and Dragon proceed on their journey, they receive valuable assistance from sympathetic strangers who expect nothing in return. On their difficult journey, Minli discovers that she has the power within herself to ask the old man for help, even if she needed the assistance of others to reach him. The ultimate test in which she asks Dragon's question is an indication of her readiness to put her friend's needs above her own. Finally, she and her family are rewarded because of her generosity. Despite their substantial new riches, Minli and her parents discover that a family relationship filled with affection is truly the thing worth being thankful for.
Okay, let's get to it, everybody. Let's talk about the contents of today's lesson right now. It's all about a girl's noble quest. She's on a journey with her friend Dragon to meet the old man of the moon and solve some of their problems there. And of course, that place is where the mountain meets the moon. It's where magical things happen. So let's talk about Grace Lin. Okay, she's a Taiwanese-American author and illustrator. So her parents immigrated to the United States. I think Grace was actually born in the United States, but she still has parents from Taiwan. So, of course, they probably taught her Mandarin or Taiwanese or whatever. And, of course, she's an author. That's a person who writes books. And she's also an illustrator, a person who draws pictures for books or magazines or whatever.
Right. So she's very talented graphically. She's a visual artist, you could say. Yeah, you can study illustration at school. Nowadays, they're doing a lot of illustration on computers instead of just, with your hand and a pen or a pencil or something to draw with that way. So her family was the only Asian family in the neighborhood where she grew up. Now, she graduated from the Rhode Island School of Design. Just like anywhere else, there are schools that specialize in different fields. You could go to a design school, maybe to learn how to be a fashion designer, or you could go to a school and learn how to be an engineer or some sort of technician. You don't have to go to a 4-year university for all of these things. But she actually graduated from the Rhode Island School of Design. Rhode Island is back east on the East Coast.
It's a state in the United States, actually. It's the smallest state by area, and it's right next to Connecticut there, next to Massachusetts. So that's where she went to college there. And she was quite successful. She published her first illustrated children's book, The Ugly Vegetables, way back in 1999, over 20 years ago. So if you have a publisher like your book and they decide to print up hundreds, if not thousands of copies and sell it in bookstores and stuff like that, well, then you have your book published.
So cool. That was quite a while ago. I'm curious what the ugly vegetables were. Now, she had a husband, Robert, who was diagnosed with bone cancer in 2004. If you're diagnosed with some sort of disease, it means the doctor has done different sorts of tests on you, maybe taken x-rays and done blood tests. There are lots of machines nowadays that can examine some of the problems that your body is having. And then your doctor or physician will look at these results that they get back and say, this is what we think you're suffering from. Well, he had bone cancer, which can be quite deadly or terminal, as we say in cancer. And sadly, even though she wrote the book Robert Snow to help raise money for cancer research, and they collected quite a bit of money, $200,000 US, Robert wasn't able to overcome his bone cancer, and he died in 2007 after suffering for 3 years.
Okay, so that was still a noble cause there to try to raise money to help her husband out, even though he lost his battle in the end. And she got on with her life. Lynn now lives in Massachusetts with her daughter and second husband. So that's in the same neighborhood there. Massachusetts, of course, is where Boston is. I think I have a cousin who lives in Massachusetts somewhere in Springfield, if I'm not mistaken. I haven't seen her in many years, but in any case, she's written over 25 books, including children's picture books and young adult novels. And she's also contributed illustrations to other authors' books. Okay, so yes, she's written a lot of books herself, and those, of course, involve a lot of children's picture books. And she's also written young adult novels, sometimes called young readers' novels. And she's also contributed illustrations to other books by other authors. So usually, sometimes if you're an illustrator, that's all you do. You just draw pictures for other people's books. And if you're an author, you write the books, and then the two people work together. It's very special that she can do both here. She can both write books and illustrate her own books.
I've noticed that we have more and more of this kind of author that can actually illustrate their own stories. So that's kind of fun. But she does illustrate other authors' books as well. If you contribute, it just means you give something. It could be money. It could be your time. It could be your talents. You are giving something in order to help somebody achieve, or maybe you're trying to help an organization achieve something. For example, she contributed her book that helped collect a lot of money for cancer research. And that was one way to contribute. Well, you can also contribute illustrations to books as well. So many of her works are based on Chinese folklore. those stories that are in Chinese culture that you grow up with. Folklore just is the traditional beliefs and customs and stories of a particular group of people. And they're passed down through generations by word of mouth, sometimes through books. It's kind of fun to look at your folklore. And of course, Chinese has a lot of folklore because of the long history of the Chinese people. Now, she had her book, Where the Mountain Meets the Moon, come out or be published back in 2009. And this is the exciting part, at least for her. It won the Newbery Honor Book Award. Newbery is a group that awards authors, these prizes or whatever. If they get a Newbery Award, that's a big deal. Newbery usually awards books that are meant for either older elementary students, like 6th grade, 5th grade, and then through junior high. Usually it's Newbery books that I used to look for as a kid reading, because if it had a Newbery Award, it was always pretty good.
That's right. So, yeah, sometimes if you're looking for something to read, you can look to see which books won the awards, like the Pulitzer Prize or the Booker Award, or in this case, the Newbery Award, which I guess is for young readers and children and stuff like that. And here in the next paragraph, we're going to talk some more about the themes of Where the Mountain Meets the Moon. But before we do that, we'd like to hear from our Chinese teacher.Hello,
my name is Shelby. 今天来聊《月夜仙踪》作者林佩斯 Grace Lin。第一段第一句 ，Grace Lin 是一位台裔美籍的作家和插画家 ，illustrator 由 illustrate 解释画插画，字尾去掉 e 加 or 做词类变化而来，变成插画家。他本身写作兼画插画，他的家庭是该社区唯一的亚洲人。他毕业于罗德岛设计学院，第一本出版的书籍名称叫做《好丑的蔬菜》，在1999年。我们到第五句 ，Her husband was diagnosed with bone cancer， 被诊断出患有某种疾病，英文就说 be diagnosed with。她的丈夫被诊断出癌症，除了 with 也可以用 as 再加疾病。And 她写了罗伯特的血。To raise money, raise 募款 ，raise 当作动词的时候有抬起、养育的意思，还可以表达募款，后面可以加上 money 或 capital 资本或者 funds 资金等金钱的名词，募集到了20万美金。第七句，他现在住在马萨诸塞州，和女儿以及第二任老公。他写超过25本书，包含了儿童绘本以及青少年书籍。第八句后面 and contributed illustrations to other authors' books. Contribute to something 是对什么贡献心力，或者也可以当撰稿。也就是说呢，他也贡献插画给其他作家，一起协同创作。下一句，他的很多作品都是基于 Chinese folklore。英文的 folklore和 folk tale 都是民间故事，不过 folklore 包含的范围比较广，例如中秋节、嫦娥奔月，大家都知道是个 folklore。阿里山姐妹潭的爱情故事是当地的民俗，就是个 folk tale。最后一句，他2009年的《月夜仙踪》成为 Newbery Honor Book 银奖作品，这是美国儿童图书协会颁发金奖 Medal Award 和庶民的银奖 Honor Books， 得到这奖代表对儿童文学有很大的贡献。
We're going to take a quick break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Okay, let's continue with our lesson. We just got done talking about Grace Lin herself, the author of Where the Mountain Meets the Moon. So I think we know enough about her. Now let's get back to the book and talk about some of the themes and ideas in this book. Well, what are they? Well, the themes in Where the Mountain Meets the Moon include the value of compassion, generosity of spirit, and the power of gratitude. So those are the three main ideas in this book, or the three main themes in this book. Let's talk about the first one, the value of compassion. So that indeed is very valuable, not in terms of money, but in terms of your spiritual growth and your relationship with humans and stuff like that. So compassion, of course, just means you're concerned about other people. When they're suffering, when they have problems, you try to help them out. You have compassion for them.
Value here means more like a person's standards or moral principles, what they believe is right and good to do. Your values might include honesty, integrity, hard work. Here we're talking about compassion. Feeling sympathy and feeling for people who are suffering or in a hard position. Maybe you're looking at the misfortunes of others. So it does include the value of compassion. Now also, it includes this generosity of spirit. If you're generous, you are someone who isn't selfish. You like to give to other people. It doesn't have to be money. It could be listening to someone who's struggling with something. That's your time that you're giving away. Or maybe you are serving. Maybe you go to a hospital and help by reading books to kids or the elderly. My church used to go to an elderly retirement village on Sunday once a month, and we would sing and tell stories, and they just wanted to talk to us. I noticed they were kind of lonely. Now, you also have this power of gratitude. When people are grateful and thankful for what they have, usually they're happier. It's the people who aren't grateful and who are always complaining about what they don't have, they're not very happy people. So if you have that quality of being thankful, you are probably going to be much happier in life. And also, you want to show appreciation for the kindness that you receive from others.
Yeah, you don't have to pay them back or something like that, but you should at least recognize it and say that you recognize it and appreciate it and stuff like that, and not take it for granted. So again, those are the main themes of the book. Again, the value of compassion, generosity of spirit, and the power of gratitude. So out of the kindness of her heart, Minli saves the dragon from the trap. Again, that was toward the beginning of the story. That's how they met. The dragon was trapped. So yes, she was kind of concerned about helping out her family. She did not have to stop and help out the dragon, but she had some compassion there. Hey, that dragon needs a helping hand. I'm going to help that dragon out. So she showed kindness when she did that.
Yeah, and so they receive valuable assistance from these sympathetic strangers. And these strangers don't expect anything in return from them. Those are nice people. Sometimes if you help someone, you know, they might think that you expect something in return. It's best if you just give away your time or your help and not ever, keep thinking, hey, I helped them a couple weeks ago. Why aren't they helping me? If you're going to help, just give it away and don't keep a tab. That's what we call it. Don't mark down the things that you've done that are good and expect somebody else to repay your kindness. Just be a nice person. So if you're sympathetic, guys, it just means you are showing or feeling emotions towards somebody who's having a difficult time. You kind of understand what they're going through, so you're sympathetic. And these strangers they meet along the way are quite nice. Remember, the twins help, and and the uncle, is it the uncle? There's someone who fixes dragon, that medicinal tea. There's some nice people that help them out. So they're on a difficult journey, remember? And on that journey, Minli discovers she has the power within herself to ask the old man for help. She finds the old man. Remember, dragon gets stuck. He's too big to cross that bridge. So Minli has to go up there by herself. But she discovers she's strong enough and she has the power to actually go and confront the old man and ask the question that she's been wanting to ask.
Indeed. So, yes, she does care for her family. Yeah, her mom was kind of mean to her, but she still loves her mother. And, of course, she loves her father, especially because of his wonderful stories and things like that. And she thinks, yeah, I do need to help out my family indeed, but still, she's very generous. And she asks the question for her friend Dragon instead. That's very kind, generous, compassionate, etc. And yes, the ultimate test in which she asks Dragon's question is an indication of her readiness to put her friend's needs above her own. So this is the ultimate test. Yes, the last test you'll ever have to take, and it will test your character. I suppose there is an ultimate test in various religions that God will give you or whatever, and if you pass that test, then you'll be allowed to go into heaven or whatever, or you'll be able to reincarnate into your next life or whatever the case may be. But again, this is the ultimate test, the highest test you can take. You either pass it or you fail.
Right, and here we've got this word indication. An indication is some sort of sign or something that shows you some information. For example, an indication that you have high blood pressure is when the doctor will measure your blood pressure. And if it's too high, that little piece of machinery, the device that they measure your blood pressure on, is an indication that maybe you need to either take some pills to fight that high blood pressure, or maybe you need to exercise more or eat less food with salt in it. That's an indication. So it's an indication that when she asks Dragon's question instead of her own, it shows that she's ready to put her friend's needs above her own. Yeah, it kind of shows that she's really kind of a mature adult, and she's a nice person. So finally, she and her family are rewarded because of her generosity. She didn't know that, though, when she asked Dragon's question. She just did the right thing and sacrificed for her friend, but it turns out that sacrifice was good for her family, too.
Yeah, she probably did not expect that that would result in some kind of magical transformation and her family would be helped out. Maybe in the back of her mind she was thinking, if I help Dragon out, Dragon will be happy. And, what goes around comes around. Maybe by being nice to Dragon, Dragon will be nice to somebody else and they will be nice to my family. Yeah, it's good to spread the love around, as we say. Pass the buck of love, I suppose, if that's a new phrase. But yes, indeed, she was able to put her friend's needs above her own. And finally, again, they are rewarded because of her generosity. And despite their substantial new riches, Minli and her parents discover that a family relationship filled with affection is truly the thing worth being thankful for. So yeah, her family becomes well off financially in the end, but they realize that, hey, that's not the most important thing. The most important thing is that family love, or a family filled with affection.
Yeah, they weren't having very good family relations before Minli took off. Her mother was treating her daughter harshly. Her mom didn't like that her husband was telling her those stories. So affection is just that feeling of genuine love and liking for somebody. And affection usually is demonstrated through being kind to those that you feel affection for. So, yeah, it's great that they had more money and food, but the best thing about what changed in her family was that they were showing affection for each other, and they were thankful for each other. So, yeah, there were some great lessons to be learned in this.
Yep, I hope you all have wonderful family dinners tonight as you have some fun. Okay, that brings us to the end of our explanation for today. It's time now to listen to our Chinese teacher.
第二段，来了解一下故事的主题。第一句说 The themes 主旨在月夜仙中包含了 the value of compassion compassion 同情心，一个人富有同情心便是 he has great compassion generosity of a spirit 慷慨的精神 generous 慷慨的，做词类变化 generosity 变名词慷慨，不要和 general 一般的当名词的时候是将军或者是 gentle 温和的搞混，这几个字拼法还蛮雷同。 最后 the power of gratitude. Gratitude 感恩相当于 appreciation, thank. Gratitude 是比较进阶的用字，感恩的力量。第二句 out of the kindness of her heart. Out of something 表示出自于什么东西。Out of the kindness 出于善意。但是 out of something 有时候是表示用光什么东西。例如说 I have run out of money. 我花光钱了。那这一句中呢，是敏丽将降龙从陷阱中救出来。第三句，当他和降龙 proceed on their journey. Proceed 继续，加上 on their journey 表示继续旅程。Proceed 虽然同义于 continue， 但是比起 continue 有一路往前行的生动感。他们收到来自陌生人不求回报的宝贵帮助。句尾 in return 表示以什么作为回报，通常放在句尾。例如说 I got nothing in return. 我什么回报也没拿到。下一句，在困难旅程中 Minli 发现他自己内部有力量来问月下老人。中间有个 within herself 在他体内，表示向内求取本身就有力量。第五句 The ultimate test. Ultimate 终极的。My ultimate goal is to become a scholar. 我最终目标是成为一个学者。在这句中，最终的测试 in which 在这测试中，他问降龙的问题 is 是 an indication of her readiness. Indication 指示说明 ready 当形容词准备好，名词 readiness 可以当作愿意来使用，后面经常加 to be 表示愿意做什么事情，将他朋友的需求放在他自己的之上。最后他和他的家庭获得回报。最后一句，尽管他们获得丰富的新财产 substantial 真实的或者大量的， Minli 和父母发现家庭的关系 filled with affection 充满感情。 filled with PP 是用过去分词来后位修饰前面的先行词 a family relationship， 这个才是真正值得感激的。以上是今天的讲解，谢谢收听。
That's it for today. Happy New Year, everybody, and we hope you enjoyed our lesson. And please join us again for another edition of our program. From all of us here at English Digest, I'm Tom.
I'm Stephanie.
恭喜发财，
新年快乐！